Hello and good morning. I wanted to talk to you guys more about this is going to be a part 3 of being Filipino American, just being part of the Filipino diaspora and how important it is to go home to the motherland. And this has been speaking to me, and I think it's resonating with quite a few of you guys because it's the videos I am getting some views on here, and I can't emphasize it enough. If you are Filipino and you're living abroad outside of the Philippines, and maybe you're a daughter or son or child of immigrants, whether it's in the United States, it's in London, somewhere in Europe, somewhere around the world. I mean, there's Filipinos everywhere, right? And if you see, I'm getting chills. If you are a Filipino immigrant or a child of immigrants somewhere around the world, it is important for you to go home to the motherland, especially if you are an adult and you now make your own money. For example, my parents left the Philippines when I was 9, and my mom and my dad couldn't really take me home, to go and see it as a family because we were always chasing bills. We were always, just trying to be responsible or paving the way so that I could have an education. But now, at 33 years old, I was finally able to just go home. And I know that some people may have trauma of sending home money to family, or just maybe you were your family was the constant giver to family in the Philippines. There are 7,000 islands in the Philippines. I think the other part of the diaspora is having guilt of not being able to take home enough and see our family. And that guilt consumed, I think, consumed and continues to consume a lot of people for years and years, and then decades pass. For me, maybe 20 years passed. I got to go home in 2019 to take care of my father because he was sick and he refused to be in the US to get any sort of medical care. I don't really count this trip home because it was in 2019. I was mostly home. My dad wouldn't let me out even though I was 20. How old was I? 27, 28 years old at that time. And then that was actually year 2020. And I was just studying most of the time. I was still on survival mode. My husband was in our apartment, just trying to work so much so he could send me some money and keep up with the bills. And then my dad was sick. So I don't feel like I was quite the woman I was supposed to become yet. I was still in the process. But now, at 33, I am done with school. I have a job. And I was able to finally go home last year. And y'all, there was some stuff that happened. My eldest sister couldn't come just because things came up in life. And that's kind of the thing that has happened for the past, let's say, 10 years. Me and my sisters were adults and have jobs. Something always came up, or I was always waiting for someone to go with me. And last year, I finally decided to just go. I was supposed to go with family, but I decided to proceed with my trip anyways. I was mostly alone when I went last year, but I had just such a spiritual experience of being a part of the majority and finally not being a part of the minority in the United States. Y'all, if I could say imposter syndrome is so rampant in the Filipino American community, or just never feeling enough. And I don't think a lot of people are even aware of that feeling. How many Filipino American families just doom scroll on the phone just to avoid their feelings? I feel like it's a lot. But being able to go home, being able to navigate the country, I still speak Tagalog. Nagtatagalog pa rin ako. Nakauwi ako last year and it was just so different. And I don't know how else to explain it. I see that there's this movement with our generation and even the younger generation to do like a reverse immigration. Also, if your parents are from the Philippines or you were born in the Philippines and you had to give that up, just like I did, I didn't retain, I didn't keep my Filipino citizenship at 18. I didn't know any better. I let go of my citizenship at 18 so that I could become, or when I was 17, so that I could become a U.S. citizen. So I went to the immigration office in Siargao and I was like, okay, I'm going to go pay $75 to get this extension for the visa. And I was prepared with my money and my cash, maybe card if they accepted it. And the guy looks at me and he's like, but you're a Filipino national previously, right? And I was like, yeah, I am. Like, I used to be. And he was confused. He's like, then why are you here trying to get an extension? And I was like, well, I was like, I thought I had to because I'm a U.S. citizen. He was like, no, no, no. Your visa right here, it's actually a 1-year visa because you're a Filipino balikbayan coming home. So if you're a Filipino balikbayan going home to the Philippines, like let's say you were born there but no longer have the nationality, you can legally go home to the Philippines and your visa, instead of 30 days like it is for the other foreigners, your visa is going to be for 1 year. And for me, my plan for that 1 year was to get my double citizenship, right? I wanted to go and take back my Filipino citizenship, which I still haven't done. It's February 2026. But that's definitely something on my to-do list for this year, for sure. But my visa's valid there until November. I don't even know if there's like extensions for that or like if there's a gap, if they'll just give you a stamp again. But also, if your parents were Filipino citizens and you are not, let's say you were born in a different country, you're able to apply for it and then pass down that citizenship to your kids. I kind of grew up thinking, my mom told me, don't keep your Filipino citizenship because you have to pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of just went off with that, like growing up thinking there wouldn't be a benefit to having my citizenship. And God bless my husband. He's usually the one who's like, you should go and get your Filipino citizenship back because it's the country you were born in and that's your nationality. And, I just feel like I'm not a part of the group of Filipino Americans who don't feel like it's home. Maybe it's because I was born there. Maybe it's just like such a different frequency and vibe. But I do agree with my husband, like I should go and get that citizenship because why not, right? Why not navigate the world with two citizenships? Like now, like I feel like growing up, being from the Philippines was not a flex back then, especially in like the social environments. It was seen as like, oh, you're fresh off the boat or you have an accent. But now in 2026, y'all, like that's such a flex. Things have changed the past 20 years, even in the United States. Yeah, so if you are Filipino American, this is my third video on this. Like, please go home and let's say that you don't exactly want to go home to your hometown, which I love mine. I love seeing my aunts and like people who know the younger version of me before I ever immigrated. I think it's such a precious thing to have that kind of support system. But let's say that you do have family trauma and you don't want to go to your hometown. I wanted to remind you that there are so many islands in the Philippines and then that you can go to the north, you can go to Luzon, Visayas. I'm not sure about Mindanao, that's still something. But I decided to go to Siargao because I wanted to have alone time and just to kind of discover the country by myself and to be able to navigate it and be by the ocean and surf in my motherland's oceans. And, you know, that's my personality. I pay my own bills and no one else can really tell me what to do. So I just wanted to implore you that if you are an adult, you have the means to go home to the Philippines and you pay your own bills, go home and see it for yourself. Go home and have adventures and don't feel guilty. I feel like going home to the Philippines, it took off that guilt that constantly ran through my veins in the US. Going to the US as a child, I feel like in order to survive, in order to be a part of the Asian model minority myth, I feel like I shrank myself so much. Like, that's kind of how my mom raised me. She wanted me to be brave, but also to know how to navigate systems in the US. So it was like, never make trouble, or you know what I mean? But in the Philippines, I was able to just exist. I will warn you though, it's not all perfect. I did not want to say that I was from abroad, but I think that's still something that I have to unpack because I don't want to claim that I'm from abroad. But then they do wonder where you're from or where you're living. And they're very used to, especially Filipinos, they're very used to us being a part of the diaspora. There's Filipinos from Singapore, there's Filipinos living in Hong Kong, in Dubai, where else? In somewhere in Europe, in Sweden. So that's one thing I realized. If you are part of the diaspora, okay, the other word is diaspora. It just means you're outside of your home country, your motherland. And I realized we are no longer special because so many Filipinos work abroad. And I feel like my family, having been able to move to the US in the 80s, like we were raised, like it was such a blessing. And yes, blessing in its own ways, but like it was just like it was always like, be grateful for what you have. Don't look at what's wrong with the country because you're so lucky. You know, like that was upbringing. And going home to the Philippines, I learned that, you know, being Filipino is such a blessing. My brown skin is such a blessing. Everything I was taught to be ashamed of, I feel like I got to relearn it myself, that it's so beautiful and it's such a blessing. I'm not gonna say it's full of rainbows and butterflies, but it was like a inner work that I had to do and just like reclaim that part of me. And yeah, my grandma passed. My grandma passed almost 2 years ago now, a little bit more than a year. And I wish I could have asked her so many questions about her upbringing in the Philippines. She would tell us stuff, but now I feel like I'm more equipped to ask her more questions. So if you have like living family, like your grandparents maybe, or even your parents, because my mom has passed, there's so much knowledge that passed with them. They're estranged from their family, and me and my sisters, yeah. Anyways, but if you have family you're connected with and you're an adult, like I feel like it's the time now to ask questions to your family members and do a little bit more research, like where was this grandma born, or how did they grow up, what was that life like? Because I know for sure, without really having talked to my grandma, I know she was born and raised in a city called Cagayan de Oro. And when I look it up, it's around that area that I spent time in when I went home to the Philippines. And ancestrally, I know that my ancestors swam in the ocean or had a life by the ocean, you know? It's just like finding pieces of myself, even though I no longer have connections with that side. I feel like I'm connected with my ancestors. You feel me? Like, my father's side is from Luzon, and they are maybe 2 hours or 3 hours from the ocean. But I know for sure my My father's side is mostly from a farming town, but my mom's side, I know and can feel it so strongly that they are by the ocean, because for me, being by the ocean is like breathing. It's like oxygen. It just makes sense. And that's another reason why I think Filipinos in the diaspora, unless you're living in California, right? There's the ocean there. But that's also something that I'm so curious about and want to dive into is like, if you're a part of the Filipino diaspora, of course we're going to be disconnected. The trees in the United States aren't even the native ones, that we're surrounded by. It's not the wealth of knowledge that our ancestors know. Something so simple like trees can make you feel like you're in a foreign land. And yeah, I am yapping away, but I wanted to just show up here and encourage you that if you are Filipino American or a part of the diaspora, it's time to go home, learn more about yourself. I know that right now the economy is not that great and people are just trying to stay afloat. But if you can affirm Klarna, put it on your credit card maybe, or save up real cash and go home. Go home in a way that will nourish your soul. Don't go home just for others. You can save a part of your trip and do it for others, but please, please, please save at least a week or two only for yourself and to nourish yourself, because you have been abroad for so long and you have been working so hard. You deserve to see the country in a different way, just to nourish you, your heart and soul. And I feel like this is a time that our ancestors are calling us back. We can be grateful for the life we live abroad, but also be grateful for our brown skin, be grateful for our roots. My God, my heart. Our motherland is calling us back. It doesn't mean that you have to go and live there, but I also actually met so many other Filipino Americans who have made the move abroad, y'all. Like, there's a movement going on. And if you're not wanting to move or not wanting to uproot your whole life, at least go home and experience it for a week or two. A week might be too short, but at least go and experience it and go eat the native foods. Go eat the food that our ancestors used to eat, because whatever we're eating in the US is not it. Even the rice tastes different, the vegetables taste different, the fish tastes different. Everything just feels different. And imagine, I know that we don't have the best politicians or leaders in the country, but you deserve to eat the native foods we have in the Philippines. You deserve to feel that kind of health in your body. You deserve to go eat the fruits and vegetables, which are so expensive now. But go home. Lift that shame if you have it within your body. Lift that shame off of your body. Lift that guilt over your body. Listen to what the ancestors are trying to tell you within your body. It's a type of healing that I have traveled around the world, around 32, 33 countries at this point. And I'm telling you, traveling has its own healing magic, but going home to the motherland hits different. So if you're a Filipino American or just a Filipino from around the world and you miss home, I know that so many of us in our hearts and our minds and our spirit miss home so much. Get a piece of paper out and ask the question, how can I make it home? How can I make this happen? And I'm sure the answers will come to you, despite, I don't know, maybe you have a lot of debt, a lot of this and that. a lot of reasons not to go, but life is too short. I when I got home, one of the things that I thought of was, why didn't I do this sooner? I know the reasons why. I was always waiting for people to come with me or my family. It was like I made it into such a big thing. I was like, I'm going to wait for my family. I'm going to wait for my sisters to go. One of my sisters got to go with me, and then I'm going to get to go again with my other sister, but go alone if you can. And like thinking about safety. Okay, Siargao was pretty safe when I went there. You're gonna blend in. Like, you can go to a more remote place like Sikihor. I would say go and look for those influencers too. There's a lot of Filipino Americans going home. Um, but there are places, like if you live in a big city and you are book smart and know how to navigate the US safely, you will be fine in the Philippines. Just be smart about it. Don't, have your phone just like out and about. I had mine, but just be smart. You're gonna be fine. Of course, like don't drink and like with people you don't know, but yeah, go home, go home, go home. Thank you for listening and for listening this far.